Hi everyone. مساء الفل. عاملين ايه؟ يا رب تكونوا بخير. جماعة احنا النهاردة البانل الجميلة دي ان شاء الله هتكون بالانجلش. I'm gonna start in English now. It's a great pleasure and honor being here at the Great Techni. Anna Sabrine, I'm gonna be your moderator today. And I have with me here some awesome and absolutely wonderful panelists. So starting with Hiba, of course, she's the director at Nilepreneurs at Nile University. And Kim here, who's coming all the way from Denmark, so please give him a great applause. He's the founder and CEO at XO Company. And Reem, she's also coming from UAE, so please also a great applause for Reem. She's a wonderful serial entrepreneur who's running Retech Solutions. And finally, Farah, who's our great entrepreneur managing and running the Baby Garage. Sorry. In the beginning, I'd love first to ask our panelists to reflect on their journey with entrepreneurship and also their entrepreneurship supporting activities. So starting maybe with Hiba as a great entrepreneurship ecosystem builder at Nilepreneurs, could you tell me how it all started? How did you get to it? And maybe reflect more on what you do at Nilepreneurs.
All right, so I originally come from the other side. I was an entrepreneur myself, and this started something like 20 years ago with the first startup I had, and I'm a senior entrepreneur, so I've had a startup on utilization of rice straw to produce medium-density fiberboard, another one for export of medicinal aromatic plants, and finally was partner in a paper mill. So I was an entrepreneur myself, and I've been through several entrepreneurship support programs that were mostly outside of Egypt. So they were in the Netherlands, they were in UAE, and Oman Sultanate. And so 10 years ago, I realized that here in Egypt, we have a huge potential, but we lack the entrepreneurship support that is required. And so our journey at Nile University started 10 years ago with NU100 Challenge to support young men and women who have technology-based ideas that can turn into a startup. And then 5 years ago, we got the support and endorsement of the Central Bank of Egypt to establish Nilepreneurs Initiative, which supports startups and small and medium enterprises that are working in the fields of manufacturing, agriculture, and digital transformation. And through Nilepreneurs, we try to have the programs that can enable the entrepreneurs and SMEs in various formats. So it ranges from capacity building programs to nourish the talents that are required by the startups and SMEs in different technical fields as well as soft skills. And then there is the entrepreneurship and acceleration programs that start with all the way from challenges and pre-incubation all the way to scaling up of companies. And then we have the innovation support, where we do support for startups and SMEs in developing their programs, either through new product development, reverse engineering, re-engineering, and we provide several technical capabilities ranging from the mechanical design all the way to software, UI and UX support, passing through embedded systems. And then last but not least, we have tailor-made support programs for small and medium industries in certain industries that we've worked for, before with the engineering companies through the Engineering Export Council. We've worked with the chemical industries, with the plastics, and with the dairy ecosystem to support different value chains. So I think that wraps up in the sort of the activities or the support that we're providing.
Awesome, that's brilliant. So moving on to Kim, If you could tell us more about how you started your company, what triggered you actually, and also maybe reflect more on how you figured that your idea is actually worth pursuing.
Shukran. And thanks for the invitation. It's a great honor to be here in Alexandria. And I spent the day yesterday walking through the city, and it was an amazing experience. So it's really exciting to be here. And I think that's also the main driver of what I'm doing and why we are doing it, the things that we are doing. It's about reaching out and meeting entrepreneurs from all over the world, but I think we'll get a chance to talk more about that specifically. But I think I am a typical story that you go to university, you didn't really know exactly why you picked that study. It's like a mix of things. You have your parents, you have some input from people you meet. But after my studies, I was still kind of lost. I didn't know exactly what to do. I studied programming and business economics. Usually you go into some kind of consulting, but I just had a really strong feeling that that was not for me. By freak accident, one of my old friends, he called me and he said, Kim, listen, I'm pretty sure you will like this. You have to be a volunteer for something called a startup weekend. It's the first time it's going to be in Denmark. Are you going to join us? You don't get paid. You just have to work for 3 months and help build this event. And I said yes. And it ended up to be this one decision that altered my path in life, I would say. So basically, Startup Weekend is a concept where it's completely volunteer driven. It's supported often by corporates that sponsor or government, or a university gives room for the competition. But the concept is that you have 3 types of tickets. You have the developers, you have the marketeers, and you have the business developers. And the variety of tickets is that so there's equal amount of each. Then everyone can pitch their idea on the first day, on the Friday. The idea with the most votes, typical between 3 and 5 ideas, are the ideas that's going to be worked on through the weekend. And then the owners of those ideas has to recruit a team from the other attendees that didn't get their idea selected, or maybe they didn't present an idea. And that's basically how you build a startup. And being part of that experience completely altered my path in life. And what I realized in that room was that while I was studying, I was freelancing. I was also trying to build app for, it was before the smartphone, so there was these Java apps, but I was not connected to any community. But taking part of that startup weekend opened my eyes, and I realized that there is this whole sub-community of people who are very diverse. Can you imagine a marketeer and a programmer and a business developer? They're very different people. But what's special about the startup scene is that there is this universal unifier between people in the startup scene. And if you are from the startup scene, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So that kind of sparked something in me, and that feeling of belonging into a community of people who are so diverse, all bright in their own ways, and all willing to make things happen was kind of what sparked something in me. And then it became to create our own platform called the Nordic Startup Awards. Then we saw it as an opportunity to build a platform that we could roll out globally, so basically copy the concept. So today, Global Startup Awards is 12 regions. All regions has their own brands, their own teams, and it's all about getting the community involved. So you have startups applying, individuals, and we have some software that runs everything. But at the end of the day, it's about finding these unique talents and bring them together, first on a regional level and then on a global level. And now it's 10 years down the road, and I think the next big step for us is to build a venture arm so we can give money to all these bright entrepreneurs that we meet in all parts of the globe. So yeah, I think that's my passion, to meet people that are from the same community as me, which I feel like is a global tribe, I would say.
Awesome. And thank you for this, Kim. And Reem, I mean, could you tell us more about your venture, how it started, when did you decide actually to pursue it? I know that you're a serial entrepreneur. Maybe you can reflect on your very initial venture and the current one actually that you're now managing.
Thank you. That's a very great question. So first of all, it's an honor to be here. It's my first time in Alexandria, and the community vibes is beyond expectations. Back in the UAE, I remember I was doing my degree in chemical engineering, and I received an email on the night before my finals asking to register in an incubation program. Back in the days, I had no idea what is business, what is incubation, accelerators, and how can I pursue my new venture in building the next startup in the UAE. So I applied, came up with a problem that we're gonna solve, joined the community, found a co-founder, and suddenly I see myself opening a new chapter in my life and doing something differently. And since then, I haven't looked back. It was such an amazing experience. Not just because you're building a startup or because of the title, because of the community and because of how amazing the journey in terms of self-development, in terms of the amazing people that you meet throughout the journey itself. So as a serial entrepreneur in the field of technology and fintech, I run Retech IT Solutions, which is an IT development house. We provide app website development, and we're tapping into blockchain and metaverse services. I also run an early stage startup which we are currently building that helps engage customers post their purchase using AI and data analysis. And in addition, I recently joined a startup called Unipreneur, which is a first of its kind platform in the UAE, not just for entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, change makers, and innovators, because we want a community hub, a launchpad that encompasses everyone, their interests, their requirements, and how can they be involved in contributing to the ecosystem.
Wow. I mean, this is amazing. You are so young and still you manage to run all of these ventures. This is very inspiring. Thank you for this theme. And finally, our awesome Farah. Farah is one of the most successful startup founders, actually female founders in Egypt. So we're privileged to have you here, Farah, to reflect on your journey.
Thank you, Sabrine. I'm really happy to be here for the third time at Techni. This time is very special. First, I'm very happy to be part of this panel. And this is our third time participating in Techni, but today with a company that's made of 31 amazing talents running the Baby Garage business. So I come from 15 years corporate experience, a mother of two, and I am a community builder. And blending all these together, I was able to build something that's called the Baby Garage. So the Baby Garage is basically a circular economy marketplace that's specialized in baby products. So it's the same storefront where you're able to go shop for brand new items and sell your kids' pre-loved items. And we empower thousands of mothers to start their own business off our platform as well. So this is what we do, and we do it with passion, where we believe being your first customer, starting off the need of a consumer, is what would help you grow your own business and really have a venture that keeps on scaling and helping more and more people and doing a true social impact. So I'm very happy being part of this panel, and you'll hear more about the Baby Garage during the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this, Farah. Thank you. So maybe we can start. We have here both, actually. We have entrepreneurs and ecosystem builders. So, I mean, the four panelists, you have your own, you ran ventures and you run ventures now. And through your work, you managed to build communities, you managed to make an impact. So maybe if you can, Heba, in the beginning, tell us, in your role, how do you, first of all, evaluate whether or not an idea that comes through your way is worth pursuing and it is worth supporting? How do you actually evaluate startup applications, if we may say so? And later on, we'll reflect more on your ecosystem supporting activities.
Well, there are several main factors that we use to evaluate ideas. One of them is actually the idea that is coming. Does it solve a real problem? Is there any market potential for it? Will it sell? Is there a specific market segment that will actually tap into their pockets and produce money? And in order to acquire the product or service that is being developed. This is one thing. The other thing about the team itself, and this is very important, because the idea might be brilliant, but the team might not know how to pull it off. So it's very important to be investing in the team, and this is something that we very strongly judge. Because even if the idea needs tweaking afterwards or needs a pivot, a good team will be able to do that, whereas a mediocre team, however brilliant the idea is, they might just ruin it. And then there is the capability part. So it's a brilliant idea and there is an excellent team working on it, but do they have what it takes? And will they be able to access the resources that will enable them to pull it off and make the product or service that they are actually talking about or not? So these are some of the main factors that we use to evaluate the idea.
And may I continue on the same question? And in your opinion, what does it take to get an idea to become an actual startup first, maybe an MVP in the beginning, and then a startup, and then a scale-up? So what does it take from the team? When we say a good team, who is a good team?
All right. So let's first work on the idea and then take it to the team. And the main interest of any business is to actually have customers. If you're the most brilliant technology in the world, but there's no customer out there willing to pay for what you're producing, then it might as well just be a research idea or something which is pretty futuristic that will evolve in 20 years. But so it's very important to have a customer that is identified. And then taking it to the team. The team, it needs to have what it takes as the skill set or the formula to do it. So it's not, because many times the teams in Egypt, they think, I know the technology part, okay, and that's where they start, but they ignore the other aspects of tackling the market, being able to manage the correct resources, the administrative part. So it takes all sorts to make a world. You have to have a properly well-rounded team. If it's technology, then you have to have people who cover the different aspects of a technology. Right now, for instance, we have a startup. They have a brilliant idea about a mobile app targeting people with cardiovascular diseases. And they're very passionate and very driven. But the first thing that we're talking to them about is, okay, what about the medical part? Because you're talking about the disease. You need to have among your team somebody who's well-versed in the medical part, because your drive and passion are very important, but enough, they're not enough. So it needs to be well-rounded, tackling the different parts. And then the team needs to be cohesive. And there is the personal part where the communication among the team members, it should have respect. Many times we see that where one of the team members, yes, I'm a technical genius, but if you talk disrespectfully to the other team members, if you don't respect those who are accessing the market or those who are talking to investors, then you'll end up a lonely technical genius who will pull out nothing at the end. So a cohesive team with proper communication and proper talent skill set is what you need to have it pulled off.
Perfect. So basically you need an idea that has some sort of a commercialization path, actual customers, and you need also a team with complementary skill sets, and you need a team whose members are at least respectful and good listeners, I would say, good listeners who can receive feedback. So this is great. And with you, Kim, I mean, I know that with your first company, EXO company, which runs the amazing Global Startups Award program, you said you didn't have the intention in the very beginning to turn it into a business. Can you elaborate more on how the evolution happened actually with it becoming a business and with you finding a path towards revenue and towards customers?
Absolutely, and I agree with everything you said. It's all the right things, and you need all of those ingredients. I always say there's like two perspectives of this. There's all these things that we really need to take into account, and then there's also the more intangible stuff. And when it comes, for example, to my own journey with Global Startup Awards, it started as something that was created out of more like a drive. You were simply not able not to do it, right? So there was this passion, this more emotional attachment to the project. And the journey actually went in the way that we created it because we just felt like we had to. And all community work is by nature not a business model. So at some point, 5-6 years down the road, now 4 years ago, I knew that if we wanted this to be existing for 10-15 years and really make it what we wanted to be, we had to create a business around it. And we went through all of the things that you mentioned. I want to highlight a few things. Of course, you need to have a good product. So in our case, what's the product? Yeah, but that's the data side. We have built a software now that collects the data. We can do that to work with investments. We can do that to help companies like Amazon to figure out like how can they create conversions and stuff like that. But I think the team side is also really, really, really important. And when it comes to the team, I feel we have to go back to the more intangible stuff again. Of course, you need respect, you need a good culture, but you actually, I would say, also need a really good story. But you need your team to buy into your dream and vision. As a founder, you can work 100 hours a day if there were 100 hours. Unfortunately, there's not sometimes. But if you want your team to be passionate and also give that extra energy, they need to know the journey that they're on. They need to buy into your dream. So I feel the team, you also have to serve them a story. You have to believe in the story yourself. So I think culture and story is super important also, besides all these things that you mentioned. They're, of course, fundamental.
Awesome. And Reem, when you think about launching a startup, and you said that you are now part of an early stage startup, right? Could you tell us more about the first steps that the startup founder takes upon settling on an idea? So what are the steps? Is it finding co-founders? Is it, I don't know, like you tell us.
Sure. So before I answer this question, I would like also to highlight a point my colleagues mentioned in terms of being skilled in a certain area to grow a startup. So from my humble experience, coming from an engineering background, I had no idea what is fintech about, programming and so on. And if I get $1 every time a person asks me, oh, you're an engineer and doing something in fintech technology, how are you doing that? I'll be a millionaire by now. But it doesn't work this way. So how it works in startups is that you start with generalist and you grow by specialist. So it's a journey that you understand, self-develop, and grow yourself. So if someone comes to you and tells you, well, you don't have a programming background, why are you building an application in a specific sector? But you need to prove them wrong, that this is a journey of learning, understanding, and finding the right people who will enhance the idea and grow it with you. So back to your question, just remind me again the question. I think I diverted.
No, it's fine. It's good. So I was just asking you, what are the first steps after finding an idea? So the premise of the panel is basically we're trying to figure out how to get ideas into becoming fully fledged businesses and fully fledged scalable startups. So what would be the first steps? We found an idea, then what?
Yes, so finding an idea is literally level 0.1 compared to the other steps that you're gonna try to build the startups. From my experience, it's validation, validation, and validation, and following the lean startup methodology to iterate, launch ideas, and go again back. There is many times where, even though some of my startups are in growth stage, but then sometimes we have to go back all the way to the idea stage and reiterate and come back to some concepts that and hypotheses and assumptions to prove the evidence that they're working well. So steps are going through the validation, customer validation. Being very customer-centric is important. I cannot emphasize about the importance of being customer-centric, especially coming from a SaaS background in technology. Understanding what your customer needs and pay points is just one part of the equation of really determining how big is the problem. If the problem is big and there is a need in the market, then you're up to something good. So iterate, validate, launch an MVP, and then you can validate the metrics if this is a valid idea that can resolve into a company.
Perfect. And may I follow up with you right away here? How did you validate the need for the startup? How do you go about customer discovery?
So I'm going to speak as a SaaS founder. So we had an application. We launched a beta version of the application, and it started with 1-2 features. That's it, not the full concept of the app. And then we started our customer validation journey, discovering the customer, having a focus group, surveys, videos, and everything for the customers to go through the app and tell us exactly if they're liking it, if there are any bugs that we need to solve, if there is a really need for market. And it took us almost 2 months to validate. And some startups, it can go all the way to 3+ months. And this is like a valid period in which we gathered all the feedback from our focus group and the external partners and stakeholders to validate if this is a valid application that I'm going to commercialize to the next step and get some payments through it. And through this, there are a couple of beta applications that we launched and we failed. It turned out that nobody was interested in the idea. And it was a great learning curve to go back and iterate and relaunch again. So it's a never-ending process. Regardless of what stage are you at the startup, you're always going to go back and iterate and relaunch and ideate until you reach a stage where your customer is satisfied with your MVP.
Awesome. So, Farah, when we think about the Baby Garage, it's not a traditional e-commerce platform. It's basically a community, it's a social business, it's so many things. Could you tell us, maybe reflect more on the journey towards building a community? Because I feel like just getting an idea and kickstarting, we're beyond this point. You have an operating business and you said like you have over 800,000 users, which is mind-blowing. So tell us more about this.
The Baby Garage is a bit different than any other traditional marketplace. Why? Because we have this social aspect out of it. We're here to do a social impact, true social impact to our users and our customers. We started off a real need, a real problem that's touching every small family, every new mother in the world, not only in the Middle East. Where the mother comes and she's having her first newborn, she's not sure how to serve them, what to buy, what not to buy. I need to secure a huge budget for my baby needs, etc. So this is an urgent need. This is a true need that a mother would wake up every morning with her small newborn in hands and thinking about all of these. So that's how we started the Baby Garage, and just building on the same discussion that we've been running in the panel, and to help everyone who's thinking of having their own startup or own company and willing to do such social impact. It's very important that you figure out that you figure out the path. So you first draw the path, and here, if we imagine together, I would see my path as the total possible customers or users I would be able to serve. So my path would keep on going and continuing, and I would go very far, as much as there are a lot of people facing the same problem that I'm trying to solve. And then you start to set your guiding lights. So, and this is the framework where it just determines the direction of and the strategy of your startup. That's what we've done in the Baby Garage, that we've put 3 major guiding lights, which would keep us on the same path, keep us serving our customers. These were the people that we try to do social impact with and trying to make them earn money off our platform, not just us trying to do business from traditional marketplace or e-commerce model. No, we want them to be doing money, and the profit that we need to run a profitable business to help us refuel again, to help us re-put some investments in our model to keep on serving others, and of course the planet, because the Baby Garage has a circular economy model where we trade pre-loved items. So of course this is a recycling model. We help the planet. We help people to minimize as much possible waste of their pre-loved products. So this is how the Baby Garage is different, and honestly I would encourage everyone who's thinking of their own startup to think in this way. Just set the path and consider it your customers, and start define your guiding lights throughout the journey to keep on going.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. So do we still have time, or because في لسه عندنا وقت؟ خلاص بجد؟ Wow. That was super fast, huh? طيب. We'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank our wonderful panelists here. Hello? Oh. Kim, Reem, and Farah. جماعة شكرا جزيلا جدا 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 ليكم. كنا نحب نقعد معاكم أكتر من كده، ونتمنى إن هي كانت جلسة جميلة بالنسبة لكم. كده أنا بس to summarize very quickly. الفكرة كلها زي ما as our panelists said, I was just summarizing very quickly. Just get to validate your ideas, go beyond just having an idea, go to discover your customer, know your path, build a team that is cohesive, and also try to have as much, and not try, passion comes naturally, I would say, right, Kim? But try to sustain this passion that you have for the idea beyond the idea path. So thank you so much. شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا.
شكرا.